Okay, I think that it's time to start with a tonight webinar. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining this first webinar for Wildwater canoeing coaches. And also welcome to those of you who may be new to this discipline. For those who are not really familiar with our sport, this is a whitewater canoeing, and it is one of the oldest canoeing disciplines, of course, alongside with the sprint canoeing and canoe slalom. We are racing mostly on the natural rivers, and we are combining speed, technique, and especially river reading. And for those who don't know me, my name is Alexandra Nemcová, and I am a Czech canoeist and coach, and a member of the ICF Wildwater Canoeing Technical Committee. We in our committee, we strongly believe in supporting the development of coaches because we see a real need for educated, passionate, and well-prepared coaches because they are the key to our sport and to the future of our sport. Hopefully, this January webinar series will help those who are maybe new to coaching or as well as those who want to develop further and learn something new from the best of the best in whitewater canoeing. Before we will start, a few words about how these January Wednesdays will work. From this Wednesday on, every other Wednesday in January, we will meet here again in the evening for a themed webinar. Each webinar will have 2 speakers, each with around 20 minutes for their presentation, followed by 10 minutes of discussion. You are all very welcome to write your questions or comments in the chat at any time. I will go through them during the discussion, so there is no pressure on you to speak up loud. We also kind of ask you to fill the Google form that you can find in the chat. This is to collect your email addresses for the ICF certification of participation, which will be sent to everyone who attends all our 4 webinars at the end of January. So do not hesitate, open up the Google form via this QR code and fill up those necessary information. Today's general topic is combining wildwater canoe disciplines or categories on the highest level. Specifically, how to train and compete in 2 categories during the season. And our first speaker will be Marie Nemcová from Czechia. Marie is a multiple world and European champion and also a coach at the highest level in whitewater canoeing in Czechia. She's currently finishing her double master degree at the university, and Marie will speak about combining women K1 and women C1 during the season. And our second speaker is Theo Viens from France. Theo is a multiple world champion and European champion in both C1 and C2, together with his partner Nicolas Sater. He is also an active PE teacher and a coach. Theo will speak about combining men's C1 and men's C2 during the season. We are very happy to have both of them here with us today. And let's slowly start with the first presentation. And I think we haven't even discussed who will start, but I think that here the gender of women privilege will work on. So if I can gently ask Marie Nemcová to start with her presentation.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Alexandra, for this great welcome. I will now share my presentation, so just a second. So can someone just say if you see my presentation now?
It's perfectly visible. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I will talk about combining K1 and C1. First, I would like to tell you something about me. So my name is Marie Nemcová. I'm from Czech Republic, and I am a C1 and K1 athlete. I have been in the team from 2017, but only on C1. And then from 2021, I have been there on K1 as well. And since then, I've been in the Czech team on both these categories. I also won a world champion title in 2022 on C1, and then in 2023 and 2024 on K1. So I hope that I am a good person to tell about combining two categories. So at the beginning, I would like to tell you how it usually starts. I'm not sure if it's like this in all of the countries, but I would say that in Czech, it's very usual that it starts with kids. Usually they start on one category, and then when they are a little older, they start on a second category as well. And after some time, you can see if it's good for them, if they are if they manage to paddle on two categories, if they feel good on two boats, and then if they are able to race on two categories and do it for longer periods of time. That's also how I started. I started paddling on two categories when I was around 10 years old, and I have been paddling two categories since now. I would like to tell you some characteristics of the disciplines. So on kayak, it is symmetrical. You have better stability than on C1, and then you have to read. It's important to be good in water reading and working with the current. These two are also important in C1. So again, water reading and working with the current are very important parts of it. But here it is asymmetrical. It's harder for stability, and therefore it's also technical in the stream, and it's a little harder to manage that. When you want to combine these two categories, or any two categories, there are some requirements that you have to follow. Here I have some examples. I'm not sure if I will tell you now, but during the presentation I will give you some of my experience for you to understand it better. So firstly, I will tell you about the technical requirements. It's different on K1 and C1. There is different technique, and it's a little hard to combine it. And on K1 and C1, you have different movement patterns, and you have to switch from one to another. Then we have the physical requirements. As I said, the K1 is symmetrical, C1 is not. So it's again very different. And now that's why I have the question marks there, because I'm actually not sure if paddling on two categories should mean that you should train more, or if the training is enough as if you would paddle only on one category. And also, if you train more, if there is enough space for recovery as well. These are like big questions to maybe ask yourself before you start paddling on two categories, or before, as a coach, you want your athletes to paddle on two categories. And then I have here the physical requirements. It is very stressful and hard to do two categories, because you have to train on both, and if you don't have enough training on one of those categories, you might feel stressful that you will not be good enough, or that you will not manage to maybe finish some hard river. And one of the hardest things, I would say, for me and also for my friends that do two categories, it's the pressure to race in two categories, because you can finish a race and you can already be tired, but you still have to do one more. And also, from my personal experience, it's really hard when you are paddling on some high competition like world championships or European championships, and you do one category and you really mess up, and then you have to uh, do it again, and you have to calm yourself and try to do the best in the second category. And also, this actually applies if you do really good in the race, because you can, for example, win the first category. This actually happened to me, and then you are really happy about it and you feel great, but you have to concentrate again and do the best performance that you can in the second category as well. So it's really hard uh, to try to calm yourself, or to maybe um, save some of your strength to the second race, and it really requires a lot of training. Uh, Now I don't really mean the physical training, but the physical and sorry, physical. Now I mean the psychical one, where you have to think of what you have to do for the second run to be successful as well. So what you should actually train, again, from my experience, I think that technique is really important in both of the categories. Even if one category you train most of the time and the second category only a little, the technique is a really big part of it, and it's really important. Uh, as well, I would say that sprints are really important, because you would you might think that you only have to paddle as fast as possible, and it's the same in both boats. But again, the technique is really different. And actually, what happened to me is that I was only training on K1 because I wanted to do the best race possible, and I wasn't training that much on C1, and I could pedal really fast on K1, but I was pedaling really slow on C1 and uh, wasn't really sure what is happening. But it's only that you are not really used to the movement anymore, and it's really different from the second category. And therefore, I think that sprints are important to train in both of your categories. Uh, what to train, when to train it, and why to train are really important questions to ask before the training. First, if you are pedaling two categories, you really need to know what category to train on and when. And that is depending on the races, which is the why, that are following during the season. I would say that mostly uh, you are, or your athletes are racing on both of their categories, but it might happen that they only race on one, and then it's really important to stick to that category to train more, and maybe train a little bit less on the second one. Uh, but as I already said, it's most often necessary to train on both. If you race on two categories, it wouldn't happen that often to train only on one of them. I would like to tell you some positives and negatives of racing two categories. I have been actually thinking about the positives for quite a few days now, and it was a little hard for me to think of some of them. Uh, but definitely it is using skills from the second category, because as I said, one is symmetrical, one is not symmetrical. You have different view from your boat, you use different strokes in the river, so it might be easier to maybe um, to maybe if you have a problem on the water, it might be easier for you to uh, sorry uh, it might be easier to you to think of what to do on the boat because you might have more experience because of the two categories. I would also say that it's more fun, but maybe not all the time, because if you are maybe tired of one category, you can just stick to the second one. But as I said, it's important that you train in both. So sometimes you just have to go to the one category that you don't want to see at the moment, maybe, but it is really important. So that's why I have the question marks there, because I am not sure if I can say like it's the best thing ever to do two categories. And I would say that there are more negatives than the positives. Maybe Theo then will think it differently, but sadly, I think this is my point of view. So the negatives, as I said, I think it's very stressful to do two categories because you have the races, you have the trainings, uh, you maybe feel bad about yourself that you don't train on one of the categories as much as you should. So it's really stressful. That also is really that also um, it's hard for training, as I already said, because you have to train on both categories, and if you want to be good, you have to train on them a lot. So there might not be enough time for you because you also get tired, and so it's really hard to put both of the categories in the training and also have enough of recovery, because then you can have too much overload, and that's definitely not good. And as I already said, it's also the switching during the races. It's again, it's really stressful, and you have to think about it a lot. And it's never mind if you have a good race or a bad race, you have to again focus for your second run. So you should uh, you should really think as coaches if this is the best way for your athletes, and also the athletes have to feel on themselves if they are strong enough to do it. And I don't want to I don't want to it look like I am strong enough to do it. I very often feel like I am not strong enough to do it, and I am fighting with it a lot, and I feel like I don't train enough on one of those categories. So it's really hard, and you have to think about it a lot before you start doing this. I would like to tell you now some of my personal recommendations based on experience. So, as I already said, it's necessary to train in both. I would like to give you examples as well to all of these points. So, uh, in 2022, I won a world championship title on C1, and I think that I already said that actually in some interview, and I said that I want to um, be better on K1, so it's harder for the K1 girls as well. So I started to train on K1 more, and then I won the world championship title. But since then, I haven't been pedaling as good on C1, and I have been actually thinking of quitting because it's hard for me to perform good and do a good race if I don't train on it. But also, it's really hard to train on both, as I said. And if I train on C1, then I'm scared that I will be missing the training on K1. So it's really hard, and you have to think about it really much. Then it's good to set goals. That is good in general, of course. But if you have two categories, it's important to know what you want to accomplish that season. Probably it's good to do it at the beginning of a season. and you want to set your goals, because because if you have your goals, you know what training you should do and in which category you should do the training, and it might be actually easier to follow the trainings then, and to not feel bad about yourself. Then that sometimes less can be more. This I actually get from my Czech team coach, because when we have a sprint race, like the final sprint race, I always want to do 1 or 2 runs in one boat, and then 1 or 2 runs in the second boat, and it's not really good to mix it like this before the big race. So it's really good to stick to the first boat that you are going to race on, and you don't need to feel bad about it. You just need to remember that sometimes less can be more, because if you are tired from the training, then you are not going to perform in the race. Then one of very important ideas is take only one boat to a training camp. I did that sometimes, and I feel like if you only have one boat, you can really do great trainings on it and feel better on the boat, and it does a lot to your training. But there are not many training camps that you can train only on one boat, because usually you have a training camp before the World Championships or some big race, and you have to obviously train on both boats there. But if it's possible to only take one boat, maybe the one that you don't train on that much, I would say that it's really good, and I did that, and I felt great on the boat, and uh, yeah, I would say this one's a good one. And the last one is, if you are struggling, then even 20 minutes is enough. This is vary from my personal experience, because as I told you, I have been struggling to train on C1 as much as I would like. So then it's really good to only do a few minutes, like 20 or 30 minutes on one of those categories, and just do some technical training, and you don't have to do any fast training uh, or long training. You just can do easy training, but it's really good to remember the remember the technique from the boat and the movements, and uh, then only like a few minutes can do a lot. That would be all from me. Now I am ready if you have some questions, or if I should maybe talk about something a little more.
Maria, thank you so much for your beautiful presentation. Um, if I can have also the privilege of a first question, and then I will go through the chat box. Maria, whose idea was it at the first time? Like it was an idea of your coach to do to mix two categories when you started like 10 years old.
Yeah, definitely. I would say at this young age, it usually comes from your coach's head. But for me, it was a little easier because I wasn't the only one in our club. There were more of us, so it's good to have the people you can train with.
Great, great. We have here a first question from the chat box from Matt Dalziel. What about combining classic and sprint training for two categories?
Hmm. So I would say that it's really similar to if you have to train for classic and sprint. if you do only one category. And if you do two, I would say that sprint is really important. That's what I was talking about the speed that you have to do, and that you have to know how to paddle as fast as possible on both of the boats. And it's just hard to put all of it in the training, but you actually have to train on both categories, in classic and sprint, and you just have to find a way to put it all in. um, and that's where actually I would say that it's really important to do the technical trainings on both of the categories, and then the sprint training. But the technical can also like uh, be the classic training. So if you understand what I mean.
So basically, you are saying that the explosive trainings for sprint are great to do on both categories, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, yes. And then for classic, for like endurance training, also
Yeah,
both.
it's
Yeah, but
you should actually do both. It's really hard to uh, put it all in the training. I would say that uh, I think that most of us train on flat water, and then I wouldn't think that it's that important to do like one training on that boat and then one training on that boat. But where it's really important to do both, except of the like sprint part, is when you travel to a wildwater river. Then it's really important to take both boats with you and try to maybe do really one training on that boat and one training on that boat, because you need to know how to work with the boat on the waves. So that's where I would say it's like important to do both. But um yeah, on the flat water, I would just go to whatever you like, but you have to remember that at least like 2 times a week you should do the one category that you maybe don't like to train on that much.
perfect. Here we have a question from Sarah. Hi, can you please give us an example of how your training program look like on a week when you have both category?
Well, you will probably not be really happy, because I already said that I have been struggling to train on C1 because my leg hurts really bad there, and also it's slower, so it's like not that fun like on K1. So since you want my example, I just would say that uh, if I have a good week, I do a one training on C1 boat, which is definitely not the best. And that is actually why I haven't been feeling good on the boat. So maybe since it's the new year, then my New Year's resolution would be to do at least two trainings during the week on the second category. But for now, I'm sorry, I can't really give you a better answer.
Maybe just an additional question from my side. When you are having the period of year where you are when you are gaining those kilometers on water, like endurance training, long sessions and stuff, are you doing this on K1 or C1?
I'm doing it on K1 because for me it's more fun to do it on K1. And as well, I said that when I started doing two categories, I had more kids with me that I could train with, but that's not like that anymore. I have to train alone on, not on K1, but on C1 I would have to train alone. And for now, it's not fun for me to train on it, and also I would have to do it alone, so that's not a great motivation. So I am doing the most of the trainings on K1, but it's good to do the second boat as well, and I'm really trying to be better in this part of training. But that's actually what was at the end of my presentation, that if you are struggling, then any shorter training like 20 minutes is enough, because what happens if you don't do the second category is that you actually forget the movement pattern, and you will start to struggle, not really on the flat water, but then some race on Wildwater comes and you really don't feel great at all. So my advice would be to not come to this part when you only do one category if you are racing on two. uh, I feel like it's a really big mistake that I did, and I have to do something about it.
Okay, one last, just a short question. You were talking about K1 and C1, and we know about you that you are a world champion also in C2 from the last World Championship. Marie, important question is, our rules allows that you can actually compete in 3 categories, not only 2 categories. Can you imagine yourself on another championship to be competing in all of those 3 categories?
I was actually thinking about it. It might not be the greatest idea, so I need someone to say don't do it. I'm not really sure if it's a good idea. I don't think so. And again, if I should speak about myself, if I am struggling to train on 2 categories, then it's really not a good idea to do 3 categories. And now I would just think that it's important to, even maybe if you are an athlete and you have been doing 2 categories, it's good to sometimes stop and ask yourself if you are able to do it, if you have enough time for the training, and if you feel good on the boat, and if it's still joyful for you, because then what's the point?
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you so much. Here we have some great comments, and also from Mr. Sumant, the last one. Definitely, this answer I can give it to you via the upcoming webinars that we are going to have the next Wednesdays. So definitely introducing the sport to younger generations is actually one of the topic of Jamie Christie, which will have who will have the last Wednesday of January. So thank you, Marie, for your presentation. Thank you for the great discussion. We will slowly move to Theo Viens. And just before giving the word to Theo, for those newcomers, you can find in the chat box the QR code of participation of this evening. I gently ask you to fill up those forms. It's because you will receive the certification of participation after all of those 4 Wednesdays in January. So now, Theo Vians, multiple world and European champion, representing the national team of France in C1 and C2. Ciao.
Yeah, hello everyone, and thank you, Marie, for your presentation. Of course, I share a lot of points from the presentation, and maybe during the presentation of C1 and C2, I will give you the difference and the similarity point between C1 K1 and C1 C2. So just a minute. Show you the presentation. Okay, is it okay for you?
It's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So just to start, as Marie said, we talked with Nicolas and we feel that there is a lot of benefit of combining C1 and C2. First of all, we'll say that sharing a project with your partner is really important. During the year, sometimes you have a bad feeling, less motivation. So it's an important source of motivation for us during the year to share the project, talking together, and yeah, we keep together. So it's not a small point during the year. Second point, it's about the power stroke, and it's more technical and physical point, but in situ the paddle stroke is more powerful. So it could be really great to train in C2 for the C1 and to improve your power stroke during the year. So it's really a point that it's benefit for C1 and C2. The other point is that it's different from the point of view of Marie, but we think also that it's great to bounce back quickly after the race. Sometimes you have some bad feeling after your race or bad emotion, and as you have to switch quickly, sometimes it's great to forget a little bit your first race and to switch with your partner and start the new project. But as Maria also said before, there is some difficulties on combining. It's not a negative point, but of course it's more run during the races, mostly during the national team selection for us, but for all the athletes, because there is a lot of race, more than during national race or sometimes during World Championship. And also during the double World Championship, it's really the moment that it's really hard to combine the two projects. There is also indeed more training before the race during the year, but also just the short time before the World Championship or before the national selection. You have to train in C1 and in C2. So it's something that you have to work and that it's not easy for everyone. And it requires some specific training before. And after, combining C1 and C2, it's also two people. So it's the biggest difference, I think, between C1 and C2 and C1 and K1, because you are two athletes with different objectives during the year in your career. So yeah, you have to find the good balance between both projects of each athlete. So principally, it will require a lot of discussion before the season. So I'd like to give you some advice and step to combine the double project, but it's mostly from our experiences, and I think there is different way to combine both projects. So first point that it's really important, as I said before, it's to discuss clearly before the start of the season about the objective in situ for each athlete. For example, how much do we want to train and to be invested in the project? What's the most important project for each athlete? Is it the C1 or is it the C2? Is it equal? It's important to talk together, to be clear before the season, because if you talk clearly before, it will be easier after to remain consistent with the choices after the selection or during a championship sometimes, and mostly you have to do some choices about training, about how much you train in C1, how much you train in C2, and if at the beginning of the season you're clear, it will be easier for both athletes. So I will talk about 3 times during two two periods, the training period and after the races period. So for the training, even if it's better, it's not essential to live in the same place. We live in the same place with Nicolas during 1 year, and last year and this year we are not in the same place, and it's not that much important because C1 and C2 require efficiency in the process, and even when we live together, I think we train maximum 2 times in C2 during a week, and mostly 1 time. But for the training camp are great to work together. And with Nicolas, we see each other around once a month during the training period, and sometimes more after when we the races approach. We are more together. So here it's more specific point about the training, and maybe it will help you to train during the year. The balance during the training camp, or sometimes when we are in the same place, it's around 1/3 of C2 and 2/3 of C1. So from the balance, sometimes it's one session or training that is mixed, and sometimes it's just one session of C1 and one session of C2. But for the mixed session, it's mostly during the intensity training, like sprint training or specific classic training. In those training, it's almost the same balance, like you have one block of C2 and 2 blocks of C1, and in the opposite way. We start in C1 as during the World Championship, 2 blocks or 3 blocks, and sometimes 1 or 2 blocks in C2. So at that point, it's interesting to do more intensity block than maybe the other athletes to be prepared for the volume during the races. During the competition, you will do more races, more training. So it's great during the training period to do more session to prepare you, the body, the mindset, and everything to be ready to do more race during the competition week. It's also very important to be clear with the objective of the training before and talk about it. Like I said before, the most important thing is to talk together and to be clear about the objective, because you have less time to train together in C2. So during each training, it's essential to be clear about what you want to train during the session, and after what is your feeling about the session, what is your feeling about the board, and really talk together to go ahead for the C2. So now during the competing period, there is three times that I separate. First, the national races during the season. So here the objective is to apply on course what we work during the off season. So mostly the national season starts in February, maybe in March, and during the off season we work together about some new skill, new thing we tried. And so here the most important is to apply this on course, and after took some decision about what we want to do for the next point is the national team selection. For us, we do around 1 or 2 races before the national team selection. It's not much, but as we live different place, it's easier like this. And with the experience, we don't need too much race before the team selection. But we also have some intensity training during the training camp where we can discuss about the strategy. On that race, the weekend of race is really usually short. So we just have one training in C2 in classic and sometimes 1 or 2 training in sprint. And we just talk about the strategy and how we feel in the board. But mostly when you are together on that weekend, it's not easy to have great feeling in the board. So it's not important to focus really on the feeling, but talk about why you have this feeling and just try to find some solution for the next step. So for the national selection, it's also really important to be prepared before the week of race and to know when you will train in C2 and when you will train in C1. So usually you have the program of the race before, and before the race it's important to talk together to be clear during the week, because you have a lot of races, you have a lot of also emotion, feeling, etc. So it's important to take the choices before the week and not during the week or just after the race. And if you're clear before, it will be easier for you to go during the week. But you still can adjust your program with your feeling in both embarkation and train on which you're facing more difficulties. It's great to know before, but if really you have some difficulties on some embarkation, like in the C2, and if you're feeling great in C1, you can switch. But the important is to talk together and that each of you is okay with the decision. And also during the national selection, and also after we'll see during the World Championship or the international races, it's really important and to keep as much energy as possible. Here, as Marie said before, there is a lot of racing, and the energy is really the most important point. For us, it means to being really efficient during the training. Like I said, to talk before on the goal, and also, as Marie said before, less is sometimes great. Also during the warm-up, at the beginning of the project together with Nicolas, we used to train to warm up maybe a little bit more in C2, trying to find some feeling good in the C2, but it's really it's too much energy for us. So now we try to reduce the warm-up in C2, because usually we train before in C1 or we race before in C1. So yeah, it's an important point to save the energy. And also the recovery after the race. At the beginning, we used to paddle like 15 minutes after the race, but it's too much for us. So we stopped that. So for each of you, after the national selection, sometimes the result is great and you are both in the team. Sometimes there is just one in the team in C1. So it's important to talk together also after the selection to set the objective for the rest of the season and for the international season. Also, with your choices at the beginning of the season, and with what you talked in the beginning of the season, to be clear also for the end of the season. As you are two different athletes, each of us have some frustration, some feeling different. So it's important at that moment to be clear about the objective for the rest of the season. And sometimes it means to to focus more on one embarkation, maybe for the World Cup, for one World Cup, and maybe in the C2 for the other World Cup. But you have to do some choices. You can't be focused on both embarkation during all the season. And at the end, for the international races, as for the national selection, you have to be efficient. So also before, talk as much as possible before, during, and after the training session during the international race week. And if you are combining both category, it could be really great to come before the championships on a training camp to do a maximum of training before the championship. For us, it's really an important point. And in that moment, you can train almost as much as you want, and feel free to be tired. But before the championships, sometimes the difficulties is to keep the energy for the race, but also to be prepared for technically and for the training for the race. So if you can come before, it's really, really great. And as said Marie before, the psychological point after the individual race, it's important to take a moment after you see one race before switching, and sometimes before talking with your partner, because you have to let down your emotion, your frustration from the C1. With Nicolas, it's around 1 hour or half from an hour before we talk seriously about the C2. But after that, you have to let aside the C1 and your feeling with the C1 and the result of the race to be completely focused for the C2, because it's a new project and a new race. And to just rebound about the presentation before, it's really a lot of race during the double world championship, and mostly in the sprint race. You can have 6 races during the 2 days of sprints, and it's really, really a lot. So you have to be prepared. You have to know that you will be facing some difficulties during the day of the sprint or the final. So yeah, preparation is the best way, and also the word is to talk as much as possible together. So to conclude, most important point is the communication and the planification together with your partner. But combining C1 and C2 is really a beautiful challenge, as it's a real human experience. And I can only encourage future canoeing and kayaking athletes to find a partner and start the adventure. And also, when you are young, it's really, really fun. Maybe it's the difference about the point of view from Marie, but being together, it's really different from an individual races. So it's really, really great. And also for the physical and technical benefits, but maybe you need more training to see the physical and technical point. But for me, there is really a big step before the partnership with Nicolas in C2 and after. So yeah. So that's all. And if you have some other question or precision you need, I'm yours.
Thank you, Theo. Thank you. The presentation was really great. And if I may again ask the first question, all the time I was wondering if you and Nicola, if you can say about yourself that you are stronger than any other C1 peddlers because of the C2 experiences, or if you are better in endurance than those athletes from French team who are doing just one discipline. Do you think that you are better in strength or in endurance than any of the others?
No, I don't think. But with Nicola, we also really friends, so it's easier to talk together, because it's not in the presentation, but the C2 is really different from the C1, and maybe it will require an entire evening to talk about that. But no, and at the beginning of our project in C2, we also had a lot of frustration about the level we were expected in the C2, because as we were in the best C1 in France, we were expected to be really stronger in C2 in France, and it wasn't the case. So we had to work together a lot. Yeah, no, I don't think. Maybe if it's the answer.
The first question in a chat box is from Anje Urankar. Why do you think men don't combine K1 and C1 as girls usually can do?
I don't know. Maybe because there is the C2 for that, to combine a sport. Yeah, no, I don't know, because yeah, indeed it's really different, and also there is not that much K1 that combine K1 and C2, but there is in France there is a great boat world champion this year with two K1 athletes, Combe and Monjanel, so it's possible, and I also encourage kayak to start the C2, but no, I don't have the answer. It's
From Nick Boreham, for us canoeists, what is the differences between C1 and C2 strokes?
In for the C2, the most important is to take the time together to for the glide of the boat. I don't know if it's clear, but if both athletes paddle separated, it's not so efficient for the boat. So yeah, you really have to be together. So you have to have a longer stroke in the C2, and more powerful than in C1.
So you would say that you have a longer stroke in a C2?
Yeah, and with less rhythm in the C2 than in C1.
And is it because Nicolas Sater is kind of like a tall guy? It's because of this, or?
No, I think it's the boat is the specificity of the C2. Yeah,
Okay.
because you are two, yeah, two in the boat. It's really an EV boat with the athletes. So if you are not really in the same times, it doesn't work.
From Maria Nemcová, what is it like to compete on C1 against your C2 partner? Do you think that it can be challenging for kids?
Yeah, challenging. I don't know. Yeah, it's really a specific case also for Nicolas and I, but maybe it's also great to know that you can compete together, and one the other side. Yeah, to know that you with 1 hour you can be together, and the hour before you can race one against the other.
But you don't have like a friendship problems, a friendship like, troubles when Nicola is faster than you in the C1 and you were expecting the opposite or something like this. You are friends.
Yeah, we're friends, but it require a lot of talk to know each other. 'Cause at the beginning, it was hard to know to each other, and that's why I told also that we need a moment after the C1 and the C2 to let down the emotion, because yeah, it's not the moment to be ready for the C2. That's our solution.
Good. Good, good. Question from Jamie Christie. Do you use different length pedal in C1 and C2?
Not me, but Nicolas, yes. Yeah, mostly, yeah, it's his paddle for the C2 is big, a little bit bigger. It's like his paddle for the sprint in C1, and I think he uses it on the classic race in C2. But it could depend of the, yeah, maybe the strength of the athlete.
And you have only one pedal for sprint and classic for C1 and C2.
Me, yes, but
Yes.
Nicolas, no, he has different
Okay.
paddle.
And is it normal for French guys that that you are like for French C2 guys that you are switching the length of the pedal for C2 or even for the sprint and classic?
I think it's half of the boat has different lengths, and some other, I think the same. I think, yeah, it's not the same for all the boats.
Interesting, interesting. Does anyone else have some question? Because this is the almost the final opportunity. Uh-huh. Okay, this is not a question for us, but okay. So, if no one has anything else to say to ask this French national team member, Theo Viens,
Yeah, thank you.
I
Thank
would
you.
love to thank you. Yes, yes, perfect. It was a great experience to talking to you and to see your presentation. If you have 1 more minute, Eddie McIntosh asked, "Do you use verbal communication or plan ahead the whole race?" So I mean,
No, usually we don't talk during the race. Only if I forgot something during the race, but no. Or yeah, sometimes in classic, because I'm in the front, if I feel that there is something to change about the glide of the boat or the feeling in the boat, yeah, it's something we learn with the experience to talk quickly to change it during the race. Only in classic race, yeah.
okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Theo. Thank you, audience. And exactly, I was about to talk about this last question. Those Wednesdays webinars are recorded and they will be published on the ICF website. We will definitely send you the link and it will be somehow connected also with the link for the schedule of the other Wednesdays. So do not worry, those recorded sessions will be available for you. Thank you again, Maria. Thank you again, Theo. Thank you, the audience. And I will see you the next Wednesday. The next Wednesday will be about the physiotherapy in the Wildwater canoeing. So we will have two speakers. The first speaker is a Team Belgium physiotherapist, and the Czech canoe team physio will be the second speaker. So they will be mostly talking about the trends, about their roles in their teams, and maybe some of you will be surprised that their roles are not only about the physio and the let's say medical part of the schedule for the teams. So thank you again. Have a nice evening and